Hi all, I'm Vijay Jethani. So in today's session, which is from module design and implement for build and release. Now this session is, you see the weightage it covers is of 51%. And we will be doing the session 3, out of which basically we will cover CI/CD. So we will get started with the basic construct of how the pipeline is, and then we will cover each CI part and CD part. Also will show you the self-hosted pipeline versus the Azure hosted pipelines. So this module has more weightage. Similarly, we have to from hands-on lab. This is the module which you have to do more on the labs. Okay. So let's see from exam construct what we have. So if you go to exam construct for this module, these are the topics which we have to cover. Okay. So starting with design and implement package management strategy, then moving towards implementing test strategy, designing, implement and pipeline. So these are the topics. Okay. Design and implement deployments. Similarly, design and implement infrastructure as code and maintain pipeline. So if you see at first look, this is lot to do. And obviously we won't be able to do in one single session. So today's session we will cover design and implement pipeline. Okay, so this complete what you see here, right from the automation using GitHub and Azure, then GitHub runner, integration, pipeline triggers, YAML, everything, whatever you see, because this is not listed in order. So it seems something random, but we will organize in a proper way so that it looks as we are going with a proper construct. Okay, so today's session, that is session 3, we will concentrate on design and implement pipelines. Okay, and we will cover all of these. Now, what is in coming session, we will cover the deployments. Okay, so this will about what are the different release strategies, how we do the deployments, how we roll out, and all those things will be covered in the next session, along with obviously the testing. So we also have to cover the test part. Okay, so testing we will cover in the next session along with the release strategy. There will be the follow-up session after that where we will cover design and implement package management strategy, and then we will also cover the manage pipeline. Okay, so in short, I think what we have to do today is just the design and implement pipeline, and for that agenda is here. Okay, so today's agenda, we will explore the Azure pipelines. Okay, how the construct is, what the pipeline is, how we actually bringing them and creating that pipeline, that will be covering in this particular lab. Then we will see how the self-hosted agent works. So we will configure the Azure pipelines. Similarly, there will be the CI and CD part which are told. Okay, so this is what we will cover. Similarly, there will be the similar things whatever we are doing with Azure pipelines, we will cover using GitHub Actions. Okay, so looking at the exam construct, this is the module which we are going to cover. Okay, design and implement. Out of this, we are going to cover only design and implement pipeline in this session, and here is an agenda to just say in short. Okay, and remember in this session we are only doing the labs. There is no specific theory. Obviously I will give you some instructions to how to search for any particular thing, like if you want to go on how the YAML pipeline looks like versus the classic pipeline. Similarly, what are the different constructs of hosted agents. So those all things theory you can cover while you do these labs. Okay, in parallel. But to get started, I think we have to cover these labs today, and let's get started. So if you have seen, as I've already told, if you go to the Az400 design and implement labs, this is what I think we have seen in previous sessions as well. Okay, so today you have to go through these particular module 2 labs. Okay, so configure agent pools and understand, and there's a step-by-step instructions for that. So what I will do is I will just walk you through this, okay, so that you understand what we are trying to do here, and then obviously I will show you practically how that works. Okay, now for that I think what I will do here is first let me, okay, so start with here itself. Okay, so at first place I think you have to import the repository, which is which you see here, right? So I already have the setup done. Okay, so I will just go to that lab and will show you what I mean by the repositories. So this is what I'm talking about. So you have to import the repositories. So while you are here, I think if you are new to this, I think it gives you an option. If you click on the, if you are in the project and in the repositories files, okay, so repositories files, or if you, or even at the top header, if you click on the repositories, you can import the repositories. So you have to input this particular URL and click import. Okay, so that is how you will import. So I will show you here also. So if you want to import, you just have to put this URL, you have to give name and then import. If it is a private, then obviously it will ask you for an authentication before it does. But while if it is a public, then it won't ask you anything, because public to private I think you should be able to do without any challenges. But if both are private, you will need any credentials before you can import that. Okay, so this is how you will import the repositories. Okay, so now this is what we did for the import. Now once I have import, the repository will look something like this. Okay, now I will walk you through this what we have from today's session. So important things which you will go through is these pipelines which are under folder ADO. There are different pipelines here, but you don't have to do all of them. So what you have to do here is based on lab by lab, I think it will instruct you what kind of YAML you have to go through. Like say suppose this YAML. Okay. Now let me try to show you this YAML completely so that, yeah. So let me increase the font. Let me see if I can, yeah, can do from here. Okay. So if you see this pipeline, there are different layers to it. First is start from the, you can also name it. Okay, after naming, or you can comment, put the comments that you can do from the header itself. Okay, so you just have to put the comment and start what exactly this pipeline does. But going through this, what we have is, I will just walk you through what we have. Okay, so resources, stages, then jobs. Within that, these are the different layers of a pipeline. That means if I have to construct the pipeline, then at most what I need is, first of all, which repository I'm connecting to, because at the end of the day you will be connecting to some source or storage. Okay, so which here is our repository, and trigger here as of now from repos from this pipeline per se is none, because we are manually triggering this. Okay, and by this resources and repository you are actually trying to import in the server on which you will be running your pipeline. Now what is pipeline? Pipeline is basically a agent. Okay, pipeline is your construct of agent which will run your the workflow. Okay, so that is what in short I can say. So you need a agent which will run your workflow. And for that workflow, which you are seeing on the screen, this is the construct of workflow. You start with resources. That means what exactly you have on the, from the repository per se. Then you have different stages. Now each stage can be, you can name it differently. Like say, if you are doing the build, here they have put the build. Similarly, you can put the test. Similarly, you can also bifurcate by based on what environments you are trying to build or deploy. Okay. Ideally, your test build pipeline should be different from your development build pipeline should be different from. That is an ideal case, and that is how we do. But to give you an example, there is no harm if it is a small thing to do. You can combine your different stages as well in the workflow. Now, workflow is nothing but this your YAML file. Okay. So from an pipeline per se, you only have two things. One is an agent, which or agent pool, which runs your workflow, and workflow is a declarative file which gives the instructions. Okay, how and what to run. Okay, so if you see here, now I'm going through this particular pipeline, which is to build a .NET Core. So it is giving the display name as a .NET Core, and pool is where I'm actually running this. Now, name of the pool is self-hosted, and the agent name which will run this workflow is self-hosted agent. Okay. Similarly, if I move ahead, now I have the jobs. They are the build job, which is having different steps. Now each steps can have a different task. Okay, so the task which I'm using here is to deploy the SDK. So this clearly shows in the display name. Similarly is for .NET Core restore, build, test, and the publish. So in short, what I want to say here is any particular workflow will have its name, then it will have resources which it wants to import or want to have before my work pipeline starts. Then it will have the different stages. Now stages are divided into the different, basically based on what I'm doing build test. So that is what it will be. And then you see the jobs. Okay. So this is what we want to do from first our lab. Okay. So let's go and walk through the lab. Now I have just given you walkthrough of repository, what we have and what we have inside the pipeline. Now, if you have done this, now it will ask you to go to the repo branch, which we already did, and create an agent in agent pool. Now, creating an agent in agent pool, how we do is they have given you step by step. First of all, you need a machine which will run as an agent. Okay, because pipeline need a machine which will run its workflow, right? So it will. So you just have to go to the portal, which is nothing but if you go to the, I will show you. So this is your portal. Okay, so this is your portal. So you just have to go to the virtual machine. Okay, so the way I have this already running, you just go to the create and create with the preset configurations. Okay, so whatever you are doing is it will ask you the select the one which is having the least. So in this, basically you can select D series as a default and then go with the configurations which will cost you less. Okay, so once you are selected and created a machine. Okay, so this also gives you instructions on how and which basically image you have to select and everything. So this is a step-by-step guide. So you just follow this and create a virtual machine. So in interest of time, I will not do that because otherwise this session will be stretching more than what is required. Okay, but I think this is a straightforward job of creating a VM, nothing more than that. Okay, so once you are done with this and finally you create, you will get an RDB file where you can actually RDP to this. Now, why you need an RDP at first place? Because for me to connect the Azure DevOps as a platform to my agent, I need to install the binaries. So this is what this particular agent pool along with the binaries will help you. Now, first of all, let's see what agent pool we have to create. Now, in agent pool, let me come to the. I will just reduce the font. Okay, so if you come to the whichever project you are working on, if you come to the project settings, You will see at left hand side, okay, whichever project you are having, at left hand side you have the different tabs, general board, blades, you have general board, pipelines. Click on agent pool. Okay, so while I have created this, I think I will just show you how this looks like. click on Click on add pool. Okay, so you want to create a new, we don't want manage, we want a dev self-hosted. Okay, so there are three types of pools which you can create. One is manage, which is the Azure hosted. Similarly, self-hosted is something which you will create a machine, and scale set is more of a pool of machines. Okay, so you can create the pool, and then if you want to use it for all pipelines, click use it for all pipelines and give it. I'm just giving test and just click on create. Okay, so this is how you will create the. So I'm just coming back to the. So this is how they are informing you to create an agent pool. Okay, once you're done with pool, you just have to RDP to your machine and run these instructions. Now this instructions you will find here as well. I'm just coming to the pool. So suppose you have created this, you have agents. Okay, so while you come to the agents, if you want to add new agent, in your case, if you are running first time, you will not have any agent. So you click on new agent. So while you run new agent, it will give you instructions based on what kind of machine you are running. Okay, so you just have to copy this in a PowerShell, and then that's it. You don't have to. You will see the machine on showing online here once it is up and running. Okay, there's no more configurations apart from what I'm showing you on screen. Okay, so just download this, create a agent directly, whatever you have downloaded, put in that and run these commands as it is. You don't need to worry about anything else. It is as simple as that. Similarly, if you are working on Mac OS, just follow that. If you are working on Linux machine, just follow that. The instructions are self-sufficient based on whatever machines you are using. Similarly, it is self-sufficient for whatever architectures you have. Okay, so make sure you are following it appropriately. Now in our case, in interest of time, I have already make it available. So I have one agent already running and online. Okay, so let us see what we have did till now. Okay, so we have just gone through the first lab. Okay, so if you go to ak.ms/az400 hands-on lab, then also you will get that. But I think you can bookmark this URL of learning.github.io as well. It's up to you how you want to go. So considering based on the labs which we have done in a previous session, you already have a DevOps organization and you started with the actually creating the pipeline. In this, basically we are creating a self-hosted pipeline. Okay, so first important thing is to import a repository if you are not done already, and ADO is a folder where we have the Azure DevOps pipeline. Okay, and first stage is to create an agent pool and agent, because we want to run workflow on our own machine, which is called self-hosted machine. So the instructions what we have till now is to create an agent pool and then get ready with the machine. Okay, so once you are ready with the machine, so this is also to how do you authenticate. So you do this as well. Okay, this is step by step, and finally you configured and get this running. So this is the last. So I will show you that this is the last thing. Once you are run ready, this is where we are. Okay, so I have my machine which is as of now online, and here till this stage. Okay, now beyond this is our pipeline. Okay, now for this pipeline, let me take you to the pipeline itself. So at left hand side, you click on pipelines, coming to the pipelines, and let me select the self-hosted pipeline, and I will show you what we have inside that pipeline. Okay, now first change which you have to do. Okay, now first of all, before coming here, I think let me do one thing. I will also show you how you actually create one. Okay, So you come to the pipeline, okay, then a new pipeline, then you have a repository, you click on repository, then click on existing Azure Pipeline YAML file, okay. The moment you do that, it will ask you for the path. Now we have everything in our ADO, so select appropriately whichever pipeline you want to select. Once I do that, I think it's just matter of click continue and our pipeline is created. Okay, as I've already done that, I'm just going back to what we have already. So self-hosted pipeline is what we were going through. So we are here now after importing our pipeline. So just see what we have. Repository, yes. Then these are the build stages, and you have a self. Now important thing to note here is whatever pool you have created, okay. So we did created a pool, right? So going back, I think I can open up the project settings and then agent pool. I have created a self-hosted pool which is here, and within that pool I have the agent which is self-hosted. So exactly same thing is what is listed in this pipeline. Okay, so self-hosted is my pool name and agent name which I want is self-hosted agent, right? This is I can also confirm here with the which is running here. Okay, machine. Okay, so this is what I want to run against. My first job is build. Now one thing they missed out in this particular lab is while you import this, they don't have the SDK installation. Now after this build and naming agent, I can't directly run the .NET restore option, and similarly is for the the build and everything. So I will show you here what changes I have done. So in pipeline, once I select the stage which is build, once I selected the pool, before my job starts, I want to provide the required binaries so that it understand what it from the CLI, or the CLIs are available for me to build, restore, and whatever I want to do in simple sense. So I want to use the .NET CLI and I want to install the .NET Core because I am using my self-hosted agent, which is a bare vanilla. Okay. So with that, I think I want to give it that I want to have SDK installed first, then I want to actually go for restore, build, and test. If you see here, these instructions are missing in this particular pipeline which you will import. So make sure you take a screenshot of this so that you are able to do this pipeline or stuff or run this pipeline without any errors. Okay, so this is what you have to insert in your pipeline once you import. Okay, so this task, once you are done, you should be good to go with restore, build, test, and publish. Now let's see this in a running. Okay, so as of now, just give a check that your agent is online. So where you will go, agent pool, your self-hosted agents. Yes, my agent is online. So I can go to the pipelines and run the pipeline. So let's run the first pipeline, which is self-hosted pipeline. And let's see what, and this, as I said, you need a repository where your pipelines are hosted. That is the reason it is asking me for the branch, and I will click run. Once I click run, let us see the instructions step by step. It has selected pool, okay, and it will also select the agent. Now first thing for it is to actually do the installation. Okay, now this is just the copy of what it is bringing as a repository before it can run the binaries. Now this is the first step which we talked about. You have to install this because it is our self-hosted agent, and not only this, if you are running Java or any other binaries, you have to, if it is your own agent, you have to get that installed SDK. It should have complete binaries before it can run any CLIs. Remember, this is a clean slate machine. That is the reason we want to do that. Okay, so we did installation of the core SDK. Now we are going with the restore of the project or solution. So solution will have the different projects. So in short, we have given here solution. So it will go and restore. So this is a complete solution. It will restore whatever projects it has. Okay. While these steps may not sound interesting at this point of time, but I think while you do the practical labs, I think you will come to understand the complete workflow of how they are interrelated to each other, right from creating a workflow that is a pipeline, then obviously it will have the structure to it, the naming, and then different parts which we just talked about from the jobs. Okay, so just remember, you don't have to do everything on your own. You have to just import. The only change which I have shown you is to for .NET Core SDK. That is the only step you have to insert before you run this pipeline. Otherwise, your pipeline will fail. Okay, so we are doing the build at this point of time. Let's see. Remember this whatever you are seeing now, this will be common to all the pipelines we run, but there is always a different flavor to it. There is always a different way to do these things like CI/CD. Now you are running this purely on self-hosted agent. The next we will cover is on the Azure hosted agent. Similarly, there will be a different stages, the different look and feel of the workflow. So make sure you pay attention to these things while we do the labs today. Okay, that will help you to be very clear on how this pipeline will look in the production environment and how we want to configure it. Okay, it is taking a bit of time, but I think we should be good to go in a while. So as a part of today's session, we will basically cover self-hosted origin, and then we will cover the CI/CD on Azure hosted, and then we will also cover the GitHub actions. And the base code will be same, so there is no confusion of what we are trying to build and what we are trying to get out of package, and obviously the deployments. So you should be in sync if you follow this particular session appropriately. Okay, so we are good to go with our first pipeline, and we did our self-hosted pipeline build, and finally the build is complete. Now this is how the pipeline will look like. You can go to each and every stage and see what exactly it did. Okay, you can actually go and check afterwards because this is the log which you will have even after pipeline is being. Okay, so just go through each and every stage. Okay, so this gives us the build finish. Now let me go to the another. Okay, so this is what we finish. Now let us go to the another lab. Okay, so I will just close this out. And let's go to the another lab. So while we do this, you can do this, as I said, continuous integration, everything. I'm just showing you the instructions so that you are not lost in between. Okay, procedure is exactly same. Import the repository if not done already from the respective branch. Make sure you select an appropriate pipeline, and then the stages, or I would say the steps, will be almost same, but the difference is between if you how you want to like in this particular with hosted, you will see the how you do the comment, how you actually do the CI part, then how you do the continuous integration or trigger it. Similarly, what kind of the testing you are doing. So these are the labs. So I will not do I will not read it step by step, but will show you how this works. Okay, so to just give you an approximate from this module through module 2, basically you just cover these three till here, till 4. I think there are 4: configure agent, continuous integration, implement GitHub actions, and deploy containers. Okay, you have to cover these 4 labs at part of this particular session. Okay, now in interest of time, I will be staying here in a practical Azure DevOps, okay, screen itself, uh, so that I don't have to switch between the different labs, but I think we'll explain each lab step by step. Okay, so now let's start with, we did with self-hosted. Now let's start with CI part. Okay, so I am again clicking edit. Now, as I was saying, you name it. Okay, so if whatever you see hash, this is nothing but the way to comment. Okay, or also have some documentation. You are trying to import a repository, the different builds are there. Now one different you can note here is you don't have anything here of SDK installation, because by default if you are running the jobs which will be running on Azure hosted uh, agent, then you don't need any, they are already pre-built with whatever binaries you will require. Okay, so you don't have to install SDK there. Stages you want to build. Okay, and the VM image which you want to pull out here is of Ubuntu latest. This is the only information. In previously you selected the pool and then you selected the agent name. Okay, self-hosted. Similarly, coming to the this steps from here onwards. Okay, right from see restore, build, test, publish, this remains same. Now only difference here is previous pipeline was till here, we just completed till here because we just want to walk through of the pipeline, but now we want to use this as an artifact. So we are actually trying to create a release out of this for our website and then finally publish it so that this is available for our deployments. Okay, so let's see how this works from a CI part. Okay, so I'm just trying to run this pipeline so that you can see. So here, see, it has taken up the hosted agents. Okay, I will just come here again. Azure Pipelines, Ubuntu latest. Okay, so this is Azure Pipelines is nothing but the hosted, and the image which we have told it to take is Ubuntu latest. So it has took that image and it started with the build. By default, everything is installed from an SDK, so it started directly with the restore operation. So as I said, you have to just remember the workflows. Okay, as I think this is going on from installation per se, just we will stay here for a while and then I will show you the what different steps or what different it will look like. Okay, so let it complete. While till here the steps are same. these are the libraries, or I would say an output. They will be bundled in one particular package and make it available to us as a publish. Okay, so two artifacts produce. So we did one here, another here. That is the reason we have to. One is our bicep file, which we'll be using for deployment. Another is the output of the build, which is nothing but the code, which package we have to deploy. So if you want to check as a final step itself, also you can check that. Okay. So finally, it has given you the overall steps for what it has done. Okay. We created the two artifacts. So this is from the pure build and the test per se. Okay. Now let us look at the how the deployment is different from this. Now here you have CI, and this is very well here. So you don't have to worry about whatever I have done. You will see completely in this document. Okay. The only difference is I'm running it manually, then typing this, but I think you follow it step by step. So I'm not doing this so that, but as we already done in our previous session, we did a pull request and everything. So there is nothing to show here from a pull request per se. So I'm just doing the pipeline directly. But I think it will not take much time. Just you have to comment it and trigger these pipelines. Okay. Apart from that, rest remains same. Okay. So coming to the pipelines, now I ran these. Okay, and the build got succeeded, which is the stage which we had. Now this is called CI part because we only have the if you see the stages which we have run is only the build test, that is where whatever I have shown you. Okay, publish the artifacts. Till here you have seen that I have produced the two artifacts. Okay, one is for your bicep, another is for your the deployment. Okay, the web.zip is what you have to install on the your environment. Now environment means what? If you are creating a website, that is an app service in our case, we will deploy the web.zip directly. There's the other way to it. You can also create a Docker image and deploy it from a registry. That is a second way of installing the whatever we are doing. So we will see both the ways. So let me show you how the CD will look like. Now remember we created the package or artifacts from here. So CD will give us how it consumes. Okay. Now this again, this pipeline is available to us the from an ADO folder. eShop web CD web hyphen code.yaml is the YAML file which we have to import. Okay. So the changes here is I want to have a pipeline outputs also imported. So that is where I'm putting CI eShop web. I'm just giving here, I'm just giving the name. But if you remember, the pipeline name was CI eShop web, right? So if I can open up here, CI eShop on web is what was the pipeline name, which was a source. So I should be very well known of what exactly, and trigger true means once this build is completed, I want to trigger this pipeline to run automatically. Now, the reason it did not run is because I have disabled it for to show you that we can disable it until we are want to have this run continuously. That means CI, once build is complete, package is ready, I can deploy it to the environment. Okay, that is the reason. So I will enable it in a meanwhile once I complete this, but just follow what we have as of now. Okay, so this is where I want to bring the output from the pipeline in the CD. Now, apart, or I would say different from CI, now here I need something from an Azure because I want to do the deployment of web app on the Azure. So obviously I need a resource group. I need a location. Already have a template file in infra folder. I will show you. In subscription ID, I'm just pulling it from a variable. So you can have the variables, and I have hashed it out or make it a secret. Like how it will happens is you have to put a name. You want to put the value of that. And if it is secret, make sure you select this checkbox and this your secret is saved. How to consume it? I think it's giving you this, I should have dollar sign and this bracket with the name whatever you have for the variable. So that is what I did. I have dollar this bracket Azure subscription, and I have my subscription stored as a secret, so that is not visible. Okay. Other thing I want to show you is a service connection. Now service connection is how you actually do the, again going to our project setting. Let me show you. There is something called service connection. Now this is where I will actually authenticate to an Azure. Okay, in my case I'm using this from say suppose if you want to create, say suppose if I want to create a new service connection, how this will look like. You just have to create Azure Resource Manager because we are using an ARM model. Once you do that, you have to select which model you want to use. Say I want to authenticate to a subscription, and whatever subscriptions you have, it will give you. By default, if you are authenticating without you want for a scope at a subscription level, don't give any resource group, just give a service connection name, that is important, and then give some description, grant access to pipeline, and save. That's it, you are done with your actual connecting to an Azure. So that is what I did. Coming back, that is how I will connect to an Azure. Now these are the variables at this point of time. I will use them in the steps. Now let's go to the steps. First thing is I'm ready with my build. I have downloaded my artifacts. I have my artifacts from the pipeline. How I would get started. So first thing is the stage is deploy. I'm just giving the name and the job is deploy. I want to use a machine which is Windows latest, and I want to download the artifact. How can I download the artifact? Because I've given if you see I've given the name CI eShop artifacts. Same download from that pipeline I'm doing here. I'm just giving a reference to that pipeline so that I can download everything whatever was there in the pipeline as an artifact. So this will download for me everything from that pipeline. Now going ahead, I have a resource manager template which is nothing but a bicep file. So at this point of time, team, don't bother much on bicep file because in our coming sessions, I think there is a separate session I will have on automation, which is purely on bicep and arm and everything. So we will go in detail for each and everything. But at this point of time, just use whatever you have from the uh, resources from the your GitHub or the whichever the repository which we have imported. Okay, so just use the resources as it is. Here, if you see you have a deployment scope for resource group. I'm just passing on whatever I had because this is now task, right, to deploy. I'm passing on a service connection because I want to authenticate. I'm passing on a subscription ID. Okay. Similarly, I want to pass on the resource group name and the location. And finally, I have to give the location of my template file, which I have already stored it in the in a variable which is infra web app dot bicep. Okay. And what is there, I will just show you in meanwhile. Just let me finish this. So in template file, then you have web app location and this deployment I want incremental so that if I rerun this, it's not fail if it is already there. Okay, so it should be incremental and the deployment what that means whatever the output I want to store in is sp.json in the same folder. Okay, so this is where I will actually have my services up and running. After that, I want to deploy the web.zip. Okay, web.zip to that is nothing but the code. on the website before I can actually run that website. Okay, so this is what I have. Now, one thing I want to show you again going back is how that pipeline, right? So in here, if you click on CI, not here, sorry. This was the pipeline we had. I want to show you the files and the infra, which is the web app.bicep. So it has just given, if you see, it starts with the parameter because I want to create a web app. So I want to have a web app. Similarly, I want to select this cube. I want to select the location. So these are the parameters set. Now I want to reuse, I want to give a declarative code, right? So first of all, I'm just till here, I'm just setting up the variables and the parameters. Okay. Now from here onwards, I want to create first of all app service plan, right? Because that is what will select our queue. And finally, I will deploy my app service here. So these are the only two resources as of now we are deploying. Now let's run this CD pipeline. Okay. Now, before I run this, I want to do one changes. I want to get this run with the CI. So what I will do is I will again run the CI and make sure this is triggering the CD automatically. So for that, I want to make sure the settings, I enable this pipeline, save it. Okay, now CD is ready for deployment once the CI is done. So let me do this and see if it is running fine for us. So let us run this again. So I'm running CI just to ensure that it is automatically deploying the Azure itself. So these are the same steps, just wanted to do to show you that it automatically triggers the CD pipeline. Okay, so we are running this again just to inform you. Okay, we should be done soon. So just waiting for it to finish. Okay, so it is trying to now publish the artifact. One is done, second is just done. Yeah, done. Okay, so the moment it finishes, I think we can switch on to the pipelines and see if it triggered the another pipeline as well. Okay, so now it triggered the CD automatically because we just made that statement of trigger to true. Trigger yes, right? Trigger to the true and then finally following it. Okay, so it's now downloading your wipe, whatever we have produced from CI. Okay, so first thing you just note down is by bicep itself, it will check whether the your resource group, whatever the variable name which you have given or set the variable name, it will check for that whether this resource group exists. If not, it will create that automatically. Now, while this is doing, I think we have to switch to the Azure itself. So I'm just keeping check on Azure to just see if the it's already getting created. Okay. Az400 hands-on lab. So we have the Az400 hands-on labs here. Okay. So slowly it will populate this resource group. So we will check that. Okay, so now deployment is going on. It has now authenticate with the service principal, which we have created. Okay, so it is validated the template. It's good to go. Starting the deployment of the whatever the deployment we have given. Okay, that is with the bicep file. Now, if you see here, you can parallelly check here and see if it is populating anything. And at times like it will first create an app service plan, then it will create a accordingly the app service. Okay, so let's wait for a while until it reflects. And final thing, once it deploys the app service, that is app service plan and app service, it has to publish the web.zip to this particular website. Okay, as it is now in, let's see now anything populated. Yeah, app service plan is looking good. The other one is also will come fine. App service also came here. Okay, let's switch back. Okay, it now this is actually the deployment it will do and actually deploy the code which you have seen as a part of build getting deployed on the website which is on Azure. Now this can take some time because this has not only to deploy just code, it also has to set the related settings. Hence it is taking some time because it has to go to that website, connect to that website, deploy the code, and once the code is in, and it obviously is, even though not that big in GBs, but then still some MBs, it will take some time for us to reflect on Azure. Okay, hence it is taking some time. So let's wait for it. So meanwhile, just checking what we did with in the deploy this step. We started with the deployment, login. We selected the appropriate variables, then log into the Azure. Then from there onwards, we started the deployment of the template, which is nothing but the bicep file. Okay, so that is what it did. Similarly, in download, it downloaded the complete artifacts, which I think we had the web.zip as well as from the. See, remember it took this as a whatever we had named it, and it came to know that this belongs to that source of EI eShop web, and then downloaded two pipeline artifacts, which we have seen in our build pipeline, right? So it downloaded both of them in a workspace. So team, be patient while we do this because the final stage of the website being available can take some time. Okay. But once it is, I think even after it shows the zip being deployed, for website to come up, it will still take 5 minutes because it has to actually, first of all, the machine which you have used is very small. So it has limited memory and the CPU. So that also make difference. If you have a larger machine with a good amount of RAM and CPU, it will come up fast. But for our testing, we have used the smaller machines. So bear with me for that. It will take some time for it to come up. Okay. So as of now, it shows publish is complete, but and this is the application website. Okay, either you can copy from here and paste it. That is the one thing, or you come to your resource group, then click on your app service and click from here. So I will just copy from here and paste it. Okay. So until it comes up, I think we will just wait. So this will take some time until it populates. So meanwhile, what I will do here is until this comes up, now this is just to browse that website. It will take some time. I will show you the different way of deploying this CI/CD. Okay. So let's come back to the, let me do here. So another way is of doing the CI/CD using Docker. So I will show you both of them. These steps remain same. That means your variables and moreover of same. They will not change much. But I think the important thing is how you actually build your Docker image. Okay, so this creation will also remain same from bicep. Nothing is changing here. The important thing now here is from this I want to have the container registry. For that ACR I want to have in bicep file. Okay, deploy ACR using bicep. That is the reason if you see the infra ACR bicep. Now let's look at that as well uh, until the website comes up. So if you go to infra ACR advisor, now this is the code for deploying the container. Okay, registry for us. And you don't have to worry about this code at this point of time. Once we do the automation stuff session, I will explain you each step by step how to create your own. But at this point of time, just follow the instructions and complete the labs. Okay, so coming back to the Docker. So these things still here remain same till bicep, like you are going to deploy by, but important thing to note here is now build here is by Docker image. Okay, so if you click on here, you have the container registry, then the variables, build the image, and we have the Docker file stored in source web in our repository. Okay, so this is building the image, and finally obviously I want to push this to a something on Azure. That is the reason I'm using this task of pushing the Docker image. This task already exists. Okay, for pushing, just you want to select the action. Now there's already a task of Docker. You have to make sure what you want to do. You want to build, you want to tag, push. So these are the things you, even if you want to run a Docker command, just make sure you select appropriately. So these are already available to us from the task, different task. Okay. So this will do your CI part of creating an image and pushing. Now let's see about the other one, which is our CD. Now reason this is not, we can do it continuous again, but the reason I'm not done purposely is because I want to make sure that we have the, we check the container registry images and then we actually push that. Okay. So for that, I think I want to keep it separate. The CD part, I think here again, the important part is to download the linked artifact, which will be created in our CI part, and then do the deployment of our web app along. Now here again, if you see, like first was for our ACR, another is for our web app Docker. Again, this repository file, if you go to the repository under infra, you can find the bicep file for that. Okay. So for the Docker. Okay, so ensure that you have the code with you. You are using it appropriately for installation while you do the Docker installations. Okay, now let's see if yeah, our website populated. Okay, so let me finish this part which we were going through and then come back to this. Okay, so where it is, CD Docker, right? Yeah, let me show you this. Okay, so the infra web app.docker. Okay, so this is the bicep. Now this is what deployment and having the role assignments with that. So that is what we are doing with the web to ACR role assignments. This is the we are doing with that. And as this is Docker, it will pull up the image from the ACR automatically. Once you have pushed that and make sure that you have given ACR to it, then it just matter of pulling that image from there. Okay, that is the reason while we do this is deployment, we have to point it that this points to a specific uh, container registry. Okay, so that is a part of our code itself. Okay, so you have a connection, you have a resource, you have a template file, and obviously you have to link it to a ACR so that it can pull the image. Okay, so that's it from the Docker side. We will run this, but meanwhile, let's see our website is ready, whether this is working fine. So I'm just clicking on the login, and these are already pre-populated accounts which you can use for as for the demo. Okay, so I'm just using that as it is. Okay, you can select not now. Just try to add something from the basket and see you are able to have this. Okay, now I want to check out and pay now. Let's see our order has reflected. Yeah, our order is here. So this is just a small short way to check out if your website is working fine. And this remains same for whether you are deploying through directly on the web app or using Docker. So we will show you in a short while for that as well. Okay, so I think we are ready with that. So I will just close this window as of now and try to run our Docker. Okay, now the way I said for CI, let me try to run this for a Docker. So steps will be same. The only difference is previously you were trying to build the image using a normal code, but in case of Docker, that is already available to us as a package template. Now we are trying to just show you the different way to build the Docker image than to build the web app directly. Okay, so that is the difference. So again here, resource group, I have kept it purposely different so that we are not messing up on the same resource group. The moreover, our service connection will remain same, and the some of the parameters which you already know for sure, uh, that I think remain same. Here differences of ACR, we will actually have the ACR. First thing is it will try to create that group. Let us check if that group is available from the Docker. So I'm just trying to refresh it. Yeah, it has created the new same with the Docker appended. Sorry. Okay, here we are building it step by step. You can see clearly the hash codes along with the MBs reflecting, and these are the different layers which you are seeing. So whatever you are doing as a part of a web app deployment, you are doing it inside the container now and packaging that image. Okay, in short. So everything, whatever you had, you are now having that as a part of image. And we just have to pull that image from a container registry to have the website deployed. Okay, so we are just about to finish the building of the Docker. Before we push, I think just make sure we have the container registry available to us. Yes, we have the container registry available to us. And we will check the repository within that. As of now, nothing here, but let us refresh afterwards. So now here it is pushing our image to this container registry. Okay, so let's try to refresh our repository. Yeah, we have our image pushed. Okay, so this was our CI part from the Docker per se. Now let's come back to the pipelines and run the CD as well. Okay, now ensure you are having the first we did is just this CI eShop and CD. The other one which I've shown you is CI for this and CD as a Docker. Okay, so let me run this now, run pipeline from CD. So I'm just trying to run this. Okay, so first thing is we want to make sure resource group exists and have the, again, here we are using app services, but using not the normal web deploy. We are using the Docker container deploy. Okay, because we are pulling the image. That is the difference between our previous deployment and this deployment. Okay, so while it does, I think we also can keep on checking within the resource group that this is getting created. And role assignment is for authenticating into container registry and pulling the image from container registry. Okay, so make sure you understand the steps as well. But I believe these are the straightforward steps. It's not that difficult. The only thing is you have to, while doing that, you have to do step by step. Okay, so now we have app service plan created. Let us see the app service will also be here soon. Okay, so let it complete. So in interest of time, I just want to make sure the one last thing which is remaining for us is how to do exactly the same thing on GitHub Actions. Okay, so I have one of the uh, lab on that as well, which I want to show you. So let me switch to that until this. Now all three, if you see that the additional service which here is container registry and you have the app service. So until this gets deployed, I think let's switch to the GitHub Actions and come back to this once we have this running up and running. Okay, so let me close this and come to the GitHub as of now. Okay, so in GitHub, I think whatever registry, if you remember in our online, you have to import this GitHub registry. I'm using this same. I'm just coming to that. Remember this? So this is the repository you have. You can directly clone this repository and have this in your GitHub account. Okay. Now here your workflow is in .github. Okay, and the workflow will be named something of eShop on web CI/CD. Okay, so let me walk you through this particular. Let me check if I can increase the size. Yeah, so let me walk you through this from the GitHub Actions. First is the name, obviously, of this workflow. So I have purposely kept this to, if anything pushes on branch main, and path is only trigger.md, so that I don't want to trigger it if anything changes on the complete branch. I want to be very specific to one file, trigger.md. Hence I have kept this as a trigger. Okay, this is the first thing. Environment variables in GitHub Actions are equivalent to the environment variables what you have. The only thing is the representation is different. There you have a round bracket, here you have the curly braces. Okay, so just make the difference from the GitHub Actions versus Azure DevOps or Azure Pipelines. Okay, the resource group, I need location. I have a different template files. One is for resource group. I have purposely kept it different so that if I want to have the resource group created differently, I can use it for that purpose. Okay, similarly, template file, I am using exactly the same, which is for web app deployment, which I use in Azure Pipelines. Again, I want to have a subscription ID stored in secrets, which I think if you are working on GitHub Actions, you can uh, use the secrets, and I will show you in meanwhile where the secrets is. But I think for meanwhile, just follow this flow. And web app name. These are the only things I need from an environment variable per se. The other thing is here, I want to run on the way we have pool here. It always creates runs on what Ubuntu latest and the steps. So there you have the jobs and then steps. Here you have steps directly, and the jobs are also here. I think almost same, but I think there's some variations in of how you use them. There is the difference in writing the same terminology. Okay, so jobs and steps and followed by the task. But here you will not see the task as a word, but you will have the directly name, and what uses is what they use for the actions. Now whatever you call the task here, you call here as a actions. Okay, so jobs Build and test is my job. It runs on the way we have pool. Now we have these steps, and the difference is only between uses and the task there. Okay. And then you select first action is once I do the checkout, that means I have the repository. I want to make sure the .NET SDK is available. So that is where I'm providing setting up the, because here in GitHub Actions, I also it is not pre-populated with the SDKs. You have to make sure you have appropriate SDKs installed. The other thing is for build and test, we are using exactly the same code, whatever you have seen there. There is no difference to that. So you do the build, you do the test and publish and make sure it is available as a package, as an artifact. You upload the artifact, and team, this is available to you in this repositories. Hence, I'm just going fast. There is no need to write down these thing, or maybe so you have this available out of box on repository. So you have the bicep template, which is going to do the uh, one is the make it available for the deployment. So I want to make sure both are available to me along with the deployment file, and then I finally do the build and test. Okay, during the deployment and publish the code. So till here this was build. Okay, this job was for build and test. Now once I'm done with uploading artifacts, the job is now deploy. So again, I need what build and test to finish first before I can deploy this. Hence, I have had this dependency in place. I'm downloading the artifacts, including the bicep files. I'm logging to Azure. Now, remember there we have the just mentioning of the Azure login and along with the secret principles. Here you have credentials. That means secrets are already created in the GitHub secret, which will authenticate to the Azure. And then you deploy. There you again you have a task here. You the uses and the a GitHub action name, and you have a subscription, and followed by the template and the parameters, and then you finally you deploy. Okay, so this remains same. The only the minor changes which I have shown you is naming is bit different, and how you get the repository. Here you create the resources. There's nothing called resources here. You have to have the different jobs, and within that job you build the relevant actions. Okay, so let me come back and run this after we see the Docker is finished. Okay, so let me switch to the Docker now if CD is ready with that. Okay, I think we were in that itself. Yeah, deploy is done, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, we did the deployment is done. App service is done. Okay, so let me check here the app service. I can go to the app service, which was on Docker, and just copy this or open a new tab. So I think if it is taking time, I think we will wait for a minute for it to populate before we move on the. Okay, let it populate. There's nothing different here. Same website. Only thing is it will come through the Docker. Now let us run through the GitHub Actions and come back here. Okay. Now this was the GitHub Actions workflow. Okay. As I said, I want to trigger this using trigger.md. So let me go to the root of this and have the trigger.md and make sure I just comment something. I'm just saying the run the GitHub Actions. You can put anything. I'm just putting it for a just to elaborate it that I'm running the GitHub action. Okay, once I do that, it will trigger the pipeline and it will initiate the different stages. First is getting the repository itself. Another is setting up the SDK. Okay, so we are now building the Docker. So code remains same. So to wrap up, I think we did with a normal CI/CD, and then we did with the Docker, and with the now we are whatever you are seeing on screen is with the GitHub Actions. So code in all three CI/CDs remains same. Only thing is where we are doing is a bit different. So we should know all three styles of doing the same. Also, first thing which we did was on self-hosted pipeline, just to make you aware of that, that is also available. The only efforts needs to be taken is to install the SDK and make sure the binaries are installed in or maybe a part of your workflow. SDK installation is part of workflow so that your workflows are installed successfully. Okay, so I think this is going with the build part successfully. It is now testing it. Let's look at the okay one test file. Okay, okay, test passed. So we can see this in our test session when we are doing this test study. I will show you in more detail, but at this point of time we just passing it and understanding the workflow run fine. Okay, it is publishing. Okay, so I think until this GitHub Actions, I think our Docker thing is ready. This is the website which we have seen on the Docker, right? In our hands-on. The website is ready. Let's try with login so that we are testing it. Every installation is running fine. And sorry for switching between these, just interest of time so that we can cover this in appropriate time. Okay, I'm just and checking in orders. Yeah, so this is the same behavior using Docker as well. Okay, so we are good with the Docker as well. So I'm closing this as well and coming back to our GitHub Actions. So we are done with the build at least now. So we can always see what exactly it did. It gone with the test which we have seen, then it completed the artifacts uploads. Yeah, now it is going to the deployment. Now here also in deployment, as I have already shown you in the Docker itself, I have created a separate, given the separate name to it, GitHub eShop on web. So I think once this starts deploying, we will be able to see that as well, part of deploy. So this is what it is doing as of now. It has in the resource group which we want to check on the Azure is GitHub eShop on web. So I'm just going to that resource group and see. Yeah, GitHub eShop on web is there. So we have app service plan created. So should be there. Our app service should be there soon as well. Okay, we are publishing it. Zip file, that is web.zip. So let's see if our app service is done. Yeah, app service also ready. So once we update this, I think we should be good to see the deployment here as well. As I said, the machines which we have selected is of having the less resources, hence it is taking more time. But ideally, this should be up in I would say a couple of minutes while you deploy this. Okay, and if it is an incremental deployment, that means you are not doing for first time. I think it should be very fast. As of now, build is successful here. What it shows, starting the site. But in these issues, if you get these issues, make sure there is no problem with the code, in especially in case of timeout. Okay, there's no problem with the code. You just have to make sure the platform is available and it has a appropriate resources available. Okay. It is taking some time to start the site. So let me refresh this. The way it took some time to come up here also in GitHub also, it is not something different. It will also take some time here before it can come up. It can take a couple of minutes or maybe near to 5 minutes if you are using the resources which are of less compute. Okay, team, rather than wasting more time on this, I think we can conclude our session. But I think if you face any issue, I think you can let me know. Should be good to go. So what we covered as of now today is we covered the Azure pipelines, how the pipeline is structured, agent pools, then implementing self-hosted pipeline, CI/CD. We did both for Azure pipelines using Azure pipelines. One is for web app, another is for Docker, and finally the GitHub Actions. Okay, so just try it out, and maybe next session we will go through our release strategies. Okay, so that's all. Thanks for your time.